Hey guys, how are you guys doing? Just want to do a little video on an issue that I had on my car a couple of days ago. So basically, it was happened like at the end of the day. Pretty much, I was using my car the whole entire day, went shopping, etc., etc. Went to the Home Depot, parked it there, went in, grabbed some stuff, came out, got into my car, tried to start it, and did not start. It didn't crank. And I was very surprised at that because, let me see. I don't know whether I was surprised at that or not because I did change up the battery about a month and a half ago. So I was a little bit surprised that happened because I had that issue happen, about a month ago when I had to go out and change up the battery. Pretty much the same situation, kind of, but kind of not. So basically, everything worked, kind of like the same situation as a month ago. Everything worked in the car. Blower motor worked, the heater worked, the dash lights came on, remote worked, everything worked. All right, and it wouldn't crank at all. I tried to crank it a couple of times. It would not crank at all. Just heard a click every single time I try to, start it. I just heard a click every single time. So had me scratching my head a little bit, and I thought maybe, that battery situation was fixed for a long while, years, because a new battery should last you about 4 to 5 years. But unless there was an issue with the battery itself, or maybe, the terminals were loose or something like that. But anyway, I went out and turned on the headlights, the headlight beams, just to see how strong they were, see if it was actually the battery that was the cause of it. And the beams were very, very, very bright. So at that point, I was kind of on the fence about whether it was battery or not. Opened up the hood, popped it, and looked around the battery area just to see whether it was something wrong with the way the terminals were plugged in, and I was looking at it, and the terminals were a little bit dirty. So I took the terminals off, had some Coca-Cola, poured some Coca-Cola on the terminals, got some paper towels that I had, and wiped them, popped them back on, and then tried to start the car again, and it would do the same thing. It wouldn't crank at all. Everything else worked, it just would not crank. So at that point, I went back out, rechecked the terminals, made sure they were tight, and they were tight enough. I mean, I was able to wiggle them loose and stuff, but they were tight enough. All right, they were tight enough. So I didn't think that it was the terminal that was the issue, because they were clean enough also. And at that point, I was like, maybe I should look at the negative terminal just to see whether the ground was connected to the frame of the car, whether there was any kind of rust or any kind of corrosion there. So I checked it out, and everything was clean. And that negative wire is the ground wire to any vehicle. So I was like, okay, all right. Let me see. The battery's good. Terminals are good. And at that point, I was like, okay, I'm gonna take out my power pack that I bought from Walmart when I got the battery, just in case one of these situations happen again, because just to save myself some time and stuff like that. I popped it on, and I was for sure it was gonna crank up. All right, and I tried to start it, and nothing. Same thing, click, didn't do a single thing. So at that point, I was able to rule out the battery altogether, and I was able to rule out the alternator being the cause of the problem. And the reason why I was able to rule out the alternator being the cause of the issue pretty much is this. If there was an alternator issue that was causing a problem with the car not being able to charge the battery, etc., etc., just jumping it would have just jumped you know, it would have cranked over, it would have ran, etc., etc. But obviously, I'm making this video, you know, that didn't happen. So I was like, okay, that's probably not the issue at all. So I was able to rule out the alternator, the battery, the ground wires, the terminals, which for the most part, many times, those would be the main issue of something like this. So at that point, I was scratching my head over it. I was thinking, what else could it be? I mean, could it possibly be, you know, something wrong? And I did have a check engine light, and I know that check engine light was for emissions, all right? But I had an OBD2 reader, you know, one of these $19 OBD2 readers that you can get at Walmart, and I plugged it in. I'm pretty sure it wasn't anything as far as, you know, the computer was concerned, but just to make sure, I plugged it in and ran the OBD2. It ran straight through, read it. Obviously, that check engine light for emissions popped up, but nothing else popped up. So at that point, I was able to rule out a bunch of other things. The computer itself, I was able to rule out, since it actually read the whole entire ECU, the car's computer. It was able to read that, so I could just rule that out. I was able to rule out anything else that may have a sensor that would cause it, but I'm pretty sure with a no start, no crank situation, it really doesn't have that much to do with sensors, as far as the mass airflow sensor, the throttle position sensor, crankshaft, all of that stuff, because normally those things going out, it would actually create a situation where you could crank up your car, but you just wouldn't be able to start it. So anyway, at that point, I was left with a couple of things. That I could try to figure out whether, you know, whether I could fix it or not. And a couple of those things would be the fuses and the relays. Now, I opened up the fuse box and, you know, checked out the fuses just to make sure that there weren't any kind of brownish tint to any of the fuses, just to give an indication that fuse was blown. I wasn't able to smell anything that was burned, though. So basically, I knew that it wasn't, you know, that, and I couldn't pick it up. I didn't have a fuse tester with me, so I couldn't pick it up if any of the fuses had issues. But from eyesight alone, I could tell that none of them were probably the problem. But I can recall two cases where I've had issues with this kind of situation, where I had a no crank, no start, where the fuse was the cause of it. One of those situations was with an Acura, and the main fuse of that car was blown. The main fuse of that vehicle was blown, and it pretty much caused an absolute power outage throughout the whole entire car. In that situation, there was absolutely no power at all inside the car, as if the terminals were taken off the battery. And once I changed up that main fuse, everything started up again, everything worked, everything was good. So but unfortunately, that wasn't the same situation as I had a couple of days ago, because I was getting power, it just wasn't cranking up. And the other situation with a fuse I had was with another vehicle that I had, and that situation was with the car, not the car cranking but not starting, and that situation was a result of a fuse to the fuel pump, or to the ECU, the car's computer. And once I swapped those out, it had no problem starting. but since it's not cranking at all, I could rule that out. I could rule those two scenarios out as far as the fuse is causing this particular situation. So now that I couldn't rule out the fuses 100% at that point, but since I didn't have a fuse tester with me going through those two scenarios, I was gonna rule those out. I was actually looking for a quick fix. So here's the thing about it. All right. Now after that, there's only a couple of things that I could think of that could cause that situation, generally speaking. All right. The starter or the relays. Now, I didn't think it was the starter because I did change out the starter about a year ago. The starter was changed out a year ago. So, and the starter that I bought was a brand new starter. Now, there are chances that the starters do go out, but in this situation, I was thinking rebuilt starters go out more than new starters, and the starter that I bought was an OEM starter. Okay, so I was like, okay, I was crossing my fingers that it could be the relay that was the issue. All right, that's me crossing my fingers, thinking that was one of the relays, probably a starter relay that was causing the issue. And I went to looked at the relays, checked the relays out. Obviously, if you guys know anything about relays, it's not something that you could probably visually check to see whether something is wrong with it or not. Normally, relays make clicking noises and stuff like that. And I was hearing a click, but it could have been the clicks were faint. I was hearing a click. So anyway, I got out. Anyway, I checked out the relays and found out where the starter relay was. What I did was I took it out just to inspect it, just to see whether there's any kind of corrosions on the stems or not, and didn't see too much corrosion on the stems. Now, normally, what this situation would entail, as far as me testing it was concerned, was if there was somebody else who could listen to the relay clicking when I'm in the car and stuff like that, I could be able to tell 100%. Probably not 100%, but whether that was the issue or not. But what I did was, instead of doing that, I checked for another relay that had the same, I checked for a relay that was similar, an identical relay in the box. And what I did was, just to test it out, I took the relay out and then swapped it. I took the relay out and then swapped it. And once I swapped it, I tried to crank the car up, and bam, it actually cranked up. It cranked up. It started. So at that point, I knew that it was a malfunctioning relay. Now, so I was able to drive it to AutoZone, bought another relay, popped it in. It works. It's been working since. So it was the starter relay that was the problem. Just want to tell you guys that I did hear the click. I think the relay was malfunctioning. It was working. The relay was working, but it was malfunctioning. I think that was the main problem with the relay itself. The main problem with that issue was that it was working, but it was malfunctioning. Now, I didn't really care enough to do that test, but I did hear the click. And normally when you hear the click, it means that the relay is working, which kind of caught me off guard. But it was working, but I think it was malfunctioning. That's why it wasn't starting the vehicle, starting the car. So at that point, if you guys are in this situation, I'm sure you guys are, if you guys are watching this video, if you guys want a quick fix for it, Hopefully you guys do get one of these quick fixes like I had. Pretty much what you guys could do is go down the list of stuff that I eliminated, as far as everything I eliminated before getting to what the main problem was. Generally speaking, after the relay, if it wasn't the relay, my first guess would have been the starter being the issue. But regardless, I just want to thank you guys for watching this video. If you guys have a comment, please leave a comment in the comment section. Please subscribe, and please give me a thumbs up if this video has helped you guys out in any way. All right, guys, take care.